Look at the exterior of this building. Look at it carefully. Find the door. There is no door. The diner in Nighthawks, the most recognized image in American painting, the painting that has been reproduced on more posters and printed on more mugs and hung in more dormitory rooms than almost any other work made in the 20th century, has no entrance. You cannot get in from the street. There is no door on the long, curved glass front facing you. There is no door visible on the side wall. The 4 people inside this building, 3 customers and a counterman, are sealed inside a glass container of light, and there is no way shown in the painting for anyone to reach them or for them to leave. This is not an oversight. Hopper was a precise and deliberate painter who worked from detailed sketches and made careful compositional decisions across weeks and months of preparation. He knew the building had no door. He put it there without one. Once you see it, the painting you thought you knew becomes something different, not a depiction of urban loneliness as a mood, a vibe, a feeling you can name and set aside, something more structural, something closer to a description of a specific condition that the 20th century had produced and that Edward Hopper, in January of 1942, understood with unusual clarity. January 1942, Hopper began Nighthawks in late 1941 and completed it in January 1942. The painting was sold to the Art Institute of Chicago that same year for $3,000, the highest price Hopper had received for a work to that point. Pearl Harbor was attacked on December 7, 1941. The painting was finished approximately 6 weeks later. This context is not incidental. The United States in January 1942 was a country under psychological siege in a way it had not been in living memory. Blackout regulations were being implemented in coastal cities, curtains drawn, streetlights dimmed. The familiar illuminated landscape of American urban life suddenly darkened as a defense against potential bombardment. The bright, sealed, indifferent glow of a diner at night, unchanged, unhurried, its light spilling out onto an empty street as if nothing had happened, carried a charge in early 1942 that it would not carry in any other year. Hopper never discussed the wartime context of Nighthawks in his recorded statements about the painting. He discussed the light. He discussed the diner's corner location. He said in the most cited passage from his notebooks that he was probably painting the loneliness of a large city, but he prefaced that with the word unconsciously, as if even he was not entirely sure what he was doing. Unconsciously, that word in the sentence of a man as controlled and deliberate as Hopper is worth holding. The street that no longer exists. The corner depicted in Nighthawks was a real corner. Hopper based it on a diner near his apartment in Greenwich Village, at the intersection of Greenwich Avenue and 7th Avenue South in Manhattan, a location that has since been entirely redeveloped and bears no resemblance to the scene in the painting. He never went inside. Hopper painted the diner from the street, looking through the glass. He did not interview the counterman or arrange to sit where his figures sit. He observed from outside, made sketches, brought them back to his studio on Washington Square, and assembled the composition from what he had seen through the window. The painting is not a depiction of the interior of a diner. It is a depiction of what a diner looks like to someone standing on a dark street at night, looking in through glass. This is the geometry of the painting, and it is the geometry of the experience the painting is describing. The viewer of Nighthawks is positioned on the sidewalk, outside, in the dark, where Hopper was standing when he made his sketches. The people inside are lit. The viewer is not. You can see them perfectly. They cannot see you, or do not notice you, or do not look. And between you and them, there is the glass, transparent enough to see through, absolute enough to prevent any actual contact. The absent door is the completion of this geometry. There is no point of entry, because the painting is not offering entry. It is offering the experience of looking in from outside, which is an experience with no door in it. Who these people are. There are 4 figures in Nighthawks. 3 are customers. 1 is a counterman in white who is turned slightly away from the viewer, doing something at the counter that we cannot quite see. The couple sit side by side on the left of the curved counter. They are close enough to touch. They are not touching. They are not speaking. They are not looking at each other. The woman holds something small, a matchbook or a small card, that she appears to be examining, though her attention seems less focused than absent. The man beside her has his arms resting on the counter and looks at something in front of him with an expression so neutral it requires active effort to describe. They are together in the most technical sense. They share the space, they arrive together presumably, and they are separately alone within it. The 3rd customer sits at the far right, back to the viewer, hat on, coat on, the posture of someone who stopped here and is not staying. He is the most isolated figure in the painting. He has no one beside him, no one facing him, and his position with his back to the viewer makes him the most unknowable person in the scene. We have the couple's faces. We have the counterman's partial profile. We have this man's coat and hat and the line of his back. That is all. Hopper did not name these figures or explain them. He did not explain why the couple are not speaking, or what they are doing there at this hour, or whether they know the man at the far end of the counter. He gave them no backstory and no destination. They exist in this moment completely, sealed in the light, going nowhere, without the door that would make going somewhere possible. What Hopper said. Edward Hopper was not a communicative man about his work. He gave few interviews. He expressed skepticism about the ability of language to add anything useful to a painting's meaning. When pressed, he said things that were honest precisely because they were incomplete. About Nighthawks specifically, he said, "I didn't see it as particularly lonely. I simplified the scene a great deal and made the restaurant bigger. Unconsciously, probably, I was painting the loneliness of a large city." There are at least 3 separate complications in that short passage. He said he didn't see it as particularly lonely, and then immediately described the loneliness he was painting. He said he simplified the scene, which is the most neutral possible way of describing the choices he made, including the removal of the door. And he used the word unconsciously, which in ordinary usage means without intending to, but which in the mouth of a man as deliberate as Hopper might mean something closer to, "I knew what I was doing and I didn't want to discuss it directly." His wife and fellow painter Jo Hopper kept detailed diaries that documented the making of many of his works. She noted that she posed for the woman in Nighthawks, the red-haired figure is Jo, as she was the model for many of the female figures across Hopper's career. She also noted, across years of diary entries, that Edward was not easy to live with, not easy to know, and held a great deal of interior life at a distance that she spent decades trying to cross. Whether that interior life is in the painting is not something she could confirm. It is something the painting makes easy to believe, what the light does. The dominant formal element of Nighthawks is not the figures, it is the light. The diner produces its own illumination in a city that has gone dark around it. The street outside is the color of shadow, not the warm darkness of night, but a cold, evacuated tone that Hopper built with a palette closer to gray-green than black. The buildings across the street are unlit, their windows blank, their surfaces offering nothing. And against this evacuation, the diner burns with a steady, uninterrupted commercial brightness that does not flicker and does not care what time it is. Hopper had been painting light with this level of obsession for decades. The way it falls through windows in the morning, the way it catches the side of a building in late afternoon, the way certain kinds of American light seem to illuminate without warming, to clarify without consoling. Nighthawks is the purest statement of this concern. The light in the diner is not atmospheric. It is institutional. It does not suggest comfort. It makes the figures inside it completely, unavoidably visible. Visible to anyone on the street who cares to look. Visible in the way that people in glass buildings are visible, without privacy, without the option of not being seen. And yet they are unreachable. The glass that makes them visible prevents any contact. You know everything about how they look and nothing about what they are thinking, and you cannot go in and ask, because the building has no door. What the painting is, here is what I keep returning to when I think about Nighthawks. The painting is not about loneliness as a feeling you carry around. It is about a specific structural condition that modern cities produce, the condition of being simultaneously visible and sealed, watched and unreachable, close to other people in physical proximity and separated from them by distances that have nothing to do with space. The diner is right there, the people are right there, the light makes them perfectly legible, and there is no way in, and they are not looking out, and the street is empty and cold, and the buildings behind you are dark. Hopper made this painting 6 weeks after Pearl Harbor and said he was probably painting urban loneliness, unconsciously. What he actually painted was the experience of looking at something you cannot reach, something lit and warm and going about its business, sealed behind glass in a city that has drawn its curtains, and finding no door. In January 1942, in a country that was suddenly, viscerally aware of what it meant to be vulnerable, that image had a specific gravity that has never quite left it. We carry it forward into every context we encounter it in. The dorm room poster, the coffee mug, the desktop background, without always knowing what we are carrying. We are carrying the street. We are carrying the dark outside the glass. We are carrying the absence of the door. I'd love to know what you think. Did you notice there was no door before today? And does the wartime context change what this painting feels like to you when you look at it now? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your reading.